Hello and welcome to the 20 Questions podcast with Tyler Aiken. I'm your host, Tyler Aiken, and thank you so much for tuning into another episode. And this week, I actually want to keep the basketball theme rolling. If you missed it, last time I talked to Seth Greenberg, who is a college basketball broadcaster for ESPN and used to coach at Virginia Tech. And we had a great time talking to each other. We talked about his past as a coach, what he's doing now at ESPN, where college basketball is now, the future of the sport. It was a great conversation, and I highly suggest you go check it out. But after I finished that episode, I really wanted to talk to someone else who had accomplished a lot in the world of basketball. And this next guest fits that bill perfectly. So he is the first ever Vermont boys high school basketball player to reach 2,000 career points. And after he accomplished that, he went on and played basketball for 4 years at the College of William and Mary. He set a bunch of records, he racked up a bunch of points, and he played against a lot of ACC schools with future NBA talents. And in fact, he was so good, he became an NBA talent himself. He was drafted in the 7th round by the Los Angeles Lakers and ended up going into coaching. He coached at the Division I level on the men's and women's side and has actually ended up as a high school coach now. He coaches the girls varsity basketball team at Jamesville DeWitt High School, where I graduated from. And he actually used to be the JV boys basketball coach for the Red Rams and coached me for a year back when I played for them. So I've met this guy, I've talked to this guy, I've known him for a bunch of years, and he is so smart when it comes to the game of basketball. He has so many stories, so many stats stuck in his head, and I really wanted to pick his brain. So please get ready for 20 questions with Keith Cieplicki. Hey, Coach, how are you doing today?
Good, Tyler. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show. So for those of you that do not know Coach Cieplicki, he currently works with the Jamesville DeWitt basketball program, but has a long and storied history with basketball. I mean, one of the best guys when it comes to basketball that I've ever known. So I think I want to start this with your start. You've been, coaching, playing, doing everything related to basketball for a very long time. So how did that start for you? When did you fall in love with the game of basketball?
Well, I had my father who really, in the state of Vermont, was kind of the king in a lot of ways of basketball. He's kind of the guy that really brought basketball in a lot of ways to the state of Vermont. And so, from as long as I can remember, I was in the gym. And I really started playing in the 4th grade, and I remember being in a game at the YMCA, and I was wearing jean shorts at the time, and I really wasn't that into basketball then, and I kind of stood around and had my hands in my pockets most of the game. So after the game, my dad brought me home, and he had my mom rip the pockets off my jean shorts.
Oh, wow.
And so that was message number one. Really, the next year, really it started. I remember, very vividly in the 5th grade, playing in the old CYO 5th and 6th grade basketball, and that's when I really just started loving the game. And honestly, never felt like playing, coaching, whatever I was doing. Never felt like a second of work. I've just loved and still love the game, and just enjoy being a part of it.
I mean, it certainly sounds like you've enjoyed it, given that you're still involved all this time later. I want to focus on high school a little bit because you said your dad, the king of basketball, Vermont. You were voted the best athlete, high school athlete in Vermont for 2 years. You won a state championship, first player to reach 2,000 points. I mean, accolades after accolades. I mean, how did that feel? That has to feel pretty sweet, huh?
It does. And I think when you get a little bit older, you appreciate it a little more. My dad coached me my freshman year and then moved on to a different job at a public school. But I got to say, I loved high school. I loved playing in high school. I love my teammates. I was really in a kind of, you know how every class is different, every group of kids. I was in just a phenomenal class with a really special group of kids, and yeah, it was just a real great experience to go out every night. And I always used to say, I want to play tonight like it's my last game. I'm gonna play my guts out. And I was, fortunate to have a lot of success in high school. So it was really a wonderful 4 years.
And you were super successful, like you said, but I mean, you also did say your dad had to kind of bring basketball to popularity in Vermont. It wasn't super big, and you ended up getting recruited all the way down to Virginia. So how did you go about trying to get some national attention when it came to recruiting when you're from an area of the country that's not super big with basketball?
Well, it was so different back then. There just, wasn't the exposure or the opportunities that there are now. And so I really didn't initially get a lot of exposure or interest. And then the summer of my junior year, going into my senior year, I went to what was at that time uh, the place to go if you wanted to try to play college basketball, and that was the Five-Star basketball camp. And I think anybody who knows anything about the Northeast hoops and where the players really went, it was Five-Star. And actually, that week Patrick Ewing was there. Got to play against Patrick. I mean, it was the place to go. So at that time, I was being recruited by a couple of the Ivies, a Division II school, Assumption College, and William and Mary kind of came onto the scene. And they really, pursued me really hard. And truthfully, I really, my dream would have been to play in the ACC. But I wasn't recruited. I wasn't good enough. So when I looked at William and Mary's schedule, their non-league schedule was Maryland, North Carolina, Wake Forest, and I said, well, if I can't go and play in the ACC, I'm going to play against the ACC. And Williamsburg and Virginia, the Williamsburg area is beautiful. Great history. I love history. Beautiful campus. And it was a lot further probably from home than a lot of people thought I'd go. But I really just did really want a new experience. I pretty much had felt, Vermont obviously recruited me, but they were going through a coaching change. I just felt like it was a good fit for me, and turned out to be, with a little bit of luck and good timing, a great fit.
And so you did mention already Patrick Ewing, a guy you played with at a camp, and then you ended up getting to play against a lot of those ACC schools. So when it comes to like memories of playing against great players in the ACC, do you have any that stick out to you?
Yeah, one of my favorite is, my freshman year we played at North Carolina, and that was the year that they actually won the national championship. And I'll never forget this. I was lined up defensively as a guard and on the jump ball, and Matt Doherty, who eventually coached that team for a time, came down and missed the layup, and I went to get the rebound, and all of a sudden I saw these two hands take the ball and slam it through the basket. And I turned around, and sure enough, it was James Worthy. And that team had Worthy, Sam Perkins, Matt Doherty, Jimmy Black, and of course my matchup that night was Michael Jordan.
Oh,
So you talk about kind of the thrill of a lifetime. I remember as I got dunked on, I turned and looked at our bench, and I just remember the whole team was laughing at me, and it was a special moment. But played against Lenny Bias at Cole Fieldhouse. Played at Wake, just really, and had some good wins. Beat Wake, beat Virginia at home. I think my senior year. So great experiences, and we never made it to the NCAA tournament. We were a possession away, and if there's one thing that's still, I feel I wish I would have done for the college is get them to the NCAAs. But hopefully one of these years they'll get there.
Fingers crossed. If my research is correct, you did bring them to the NIT tournament. Is that correct?
We did, and that was a great accomplishment. We won the regular season, lost in the championship, and played up at Virginia Tech. And there was a fellow there at the time by the name of Del Curry, whose son turned out to be a pretty good player. We lost that game up at Tech. They were a big rival. We played them every year, and we were again just trying to really represent the school. And I had really three great coaches. Bruce Parkhill was my head coach for 2 years, and then his brother Barry for 2 years, and Tom Brennan, who coached at Yale in Vermont a long time, really recruited the heck out of me. And back in those days, there weren't a lot of rules. So Tom Brennan ended up spending a whole day at my house, played wiffle ball with us in the backyard. I mean, this guy could recruit. And so I really, was fortunate to be connected to just some great people.
Yeah, I don't know if the wiffle ball would fly today. I feel like I feel like they'd be worried about you getting injured. They wouldn't want to cause any off the court injuries there.
Well, back in the day, you were encouraged to do other things. It's kind of sad now. Even when I was coaching, we had some soccer players. We had a girl at Vermont who was a professional golfer. Best player on the men's golf team, but now, as you know, everything is just so specialized that you don't get that same opportunity.
Yeah, recruiting really has changed, and I'm curious as to what you think about what it is now. Like, you can make money off your name, image, likeness. That certainly plays a factor into recruiting. You have to be a big social media presence. How do you feel about that today? Do you think that's good for players in the long run, or not so much?
Well, I just no, I don't like it, and maybe that's just because I'm old. And Jay Wright stepped away from Villanova, and I think it was for a lot of the same reasons. I think there's has to be a different mindset now when you recruit, and Tyler, I always ask one question. My first question to every player I ever recruited, wasn't, what do you want? It was, how much do you love the game on a scale of 1 to 10? And if they didn't say at least an 11, I didn't recruit them. I didn't care how good they were. But now I just feel like there's so many other factors that play into recruiting. And, resources in a lot of ways drive programs. I'm glad I'm not at that level that I was, at Syracuse and even Vermont. But I give the coaches that are still doing it a lot of credit, because it's a different game for sure.
It's interesting that you bring up Jay Wright and him stepping away, because I actually had the benefit of being at the Villanova graduation ceremony this year, and he spoke. And one of the big things he spoke about was making sure that as the graduates of Villanova this year move on into their adult life, they try not to focus on social media or outside perspectives of themselves, and instead worry about how they feel about themselves and where they are in life. So it seems like you were pretty spot on with that guess.
Yeah, Jay, our Big East meetings every year when I was coaching were down in Florida. And the first year, my wife and I went down. We got off the plane. I didn't know, what I was doing, and Jay Wright was there, and his wife, and they grabbed a van, a taxi, and they said, "Hey, you guys ride with us." And from the first time I ever met Jay, he was just a real genuine, just a good guy. And so yeah, that's great. You got to hear him speak, and I think he's one of the classiest guys I've ever encountered. So good man.
It was a tough day for the game when he steps down, but I'm sure he has his reasons and he'll be doing fine in retirement.
Yeah.
So speaking of coaching a little bit, I'm curious as to when you figured out that you wanted to coach. Did that happen when you were super young? Did that kind of happen as you were kind of getting out of college? When did you know, hey, I want to be a basketball coach?
Yeah, I really wanted to be a professional basketball player, is what I wanted to be, and I kind of exhausted those possibilities after I got cut by the Lakers, and then played with Athletes in Action for a couple of years, hoping I could maybe hook on to somebody. But when I realized that dream was kind of pretty much over, I really was focused, actually, Tyler, on two possible career paths. One was counseling, and the other was going into the Catholic priesthood. And I had been accepted at Yale Divinity School, and I was, prepared to go. And then decided I wanted to stay close to home. So I decided to go to school at Vermont, and the university is literally 10 minutes from my home. And the women's basketball coach at the time, Kathy Inglese, had an open graduate assistant position. And so she asked me if I wanted to work with the women and to get my master's paid for. And that sounded like a great deal to me. I mean, free education, and all I got to do is hang out in the gym. And we had a couple of just incredible, really incredible years. And Kathy was a phenomenal mentor for me, and a dear friend. And it was during that time, and maybe winning 57 games in a row over 2 years.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, we went back to back undefeated regular seasons. And so obviously I was enjoying coaching. And that really, I think, in learning from Kathy, I learned, the best lesson I ever learned, which I think has kept me in coaching, is that, when a player doesn't do something the way I want them to do it, it's not their fault, it's mine. And I've got to change something with the way I'm teaching, or maybe I got to change my expectation of that player. But I learned that lesson from Kathy, and it's served me really well over the years. And after I got into it, again, they're paying me to do this. I mean, yeah, I'll do it as long as I can. I mean, I really just fell in love with it. So.
And you started to bring up your coaching philosophy of, thinking about how you can change the coach instead of changing the player. I'm curious because the game of basketball has changed quite a bit since you started coaching. The 3-point shot has been valued a lot more. There's just a lot of stylistic changes when it comes to how people move the ball, how people dribble the ball. So there's some pillars of coaching that will never change. But have you changed any like minute details of your style of coaching since basketball has started to change?
Oh, Tyler, I've changed drastically. uh, I want to apologize to every player that I coached the first 15 years of my career. It's kind of the same joke when I got my counseling degree. The first 10 years you counsel people, you wish you could counsel them after 10 years because you're a lot better at what you do. I think that really, I mean, I had a lot of great players. My first head coaching job at Vermont. And I think I started to learn a lot there, learn more at SU, and really have really just clarified in my mind the importance of players enjoying the game and learning the game. And, this may sound really simple and really obvious, but I feel like my philosophy shifted. I mean, we won a lot of games at Vermont, and winning percentage was over 70%. But I feel I could have been better in terms of that interest and that development with the players. And so now that I'm coaching high school girls, I really value them as people. And honestly, that makes the coaching easy. I do still watch a lot. I still, occasionally will call an old friend to help me with something. But yeah, I feel like I've grown a lot in terms of my appreciation for players and how I communicate with them. So I'm a lot more careful. Plus, I'll tell you, these days you got to be careful. Between the phones and social media, like you said, I mean, it's you got to be very sensitive, I think, to people, and you should be anyway. But boy, when you make a mistake, it ain't pretty, is it?
Not at all. And now this is actually a good segue because you started talking, I feel more about coaching a person rather than coaching a player. And that's kind of what you do now. I'd say it's a pretty similar thing with your involvement at the jail ministry. So for anyone that doesn't know what that is, do you kind of want to explain what you guys do over there?
Sure. So I appreciate that. Before I jump into jail ministry, I do want to say I don't know if people know that I had the privilege of coaching you, Tyler.
You
And,
did.
you know, it was such an enjoyable experience because, you were really open to my coaching. And I think you also gave me some great feedback. And so, I just want to put that out there because I think, maybe people don't know you're talking from a position of, I think, a lot of experience as well. In terms of the jail ministry part, I'm in my 11th year in the jail as the director of jail ministry. And basically, we work with individuals who are being detained at the Onondaga County Justice Center. And right now, there's around 400. The average population is 400. And I have 60 trained visitor advocates. And when an individual in the jail would like a visit from someone, we are that bridge for them, with whether it's their family, their lawyers, other needs, or just simply some spiritual support or just listening. So I'm really, I enjoy being in the jail. It's I know that's strange for a lot of people to hear, but a lot of me feels more at home in the jail. Well, jail and the gym. I could live in either of those. But I've really enjoyed that, and the community has been tremendously supportive of that. My basketball community and the families and the community as a whole. So yeah, I've been doing it for a while, and it's got a great history. Started way back in 1976, and I feel very fortunate to be doing it.
I know you were very busy during COVID. You collected, I want to say, at least over 50 people writing letters, making sure that people were getting some communication with the outside world when no one could go in. But yeah, I referenced earlier, it seems similar to coaching to me. You're not coaching basketball players, you're coaching people. And I don't know, it just seems like there's a lot of a tie-in. Do you feel like you've been able to kind of use lessons from the court and bring it into jail or back and forth?
Oh, no question. In my mind, it's all coaching. It really is. And when I left Syracuse and I started working with the chronically homeless, I worked, with the homeless for 5 years. The irony is everyone called me coach. And I think, I always felt like coach is the highest compliment or the highest title, the best title you can give a person. So, yeah, it's definitely Again, hopefully as folks grow older, I know for me, I've realized more and more, listening, relationships, and support go a long way for people. And the trick, Tyler, I think for our work is we're not trying to fix people, right? We're just trying to be with people. And if you can do that, um, the folks you're visiting benefit. There's a lot of programs out there. There's a lot of answers. I don't have any of them. So it's definitely, yeah. I feel like my life is kind of just one big coaching experience at this point.
So I think that's really cool. All the stuff that you're doing with jail ministry, I really appreciate that. You said you're going to be a coach for your whole life. So I want to kind of use that for the next question. When it comes to coaching young basketball players, what are some of the biggest things that maybe someone in middle school, high school, maybe a little younger, older, who knows? What's something that a basketball player can do to improve themselves just on a general scale? Because you can't coach someone through a screen, but what are some tips that I think any young basketball player could take for themselves and use to get better?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think really a couple of things. One, I think that young people want to identify their strengths and they want to play to their strengths. And I can't think of anyone who did that more than you. I mean, you knew what you were good at. You were very smart. And I also think that young players have to be willing to work on their weaknesses. It's just amazing how all of us tend to gravitate toward the things we're good at. And so, if you're a great ball handler and you go out to the driveway, you're going to handle the ball. And maybe what you need to do is shoot the ball, or whatever that might be. So I think for me, those are the two things that I really try to instill in people when they have to compete, play to their strengths, and when they're working on their game, work on the things they're not good at. And yeah, and the whole, I hear it all the time. Oh, my son, my daughter doesn't have any confidence in herself. You know, you really, I think, develop confidence through work. If you work at it, then when you're trying to do it, you've worked at it. So those are some things. I gotta say, I really enjoy working with young people. They're a lot of fun, and I do. I'm kind of a pain because I'm always looking for their weaknesses and affirming their strengths, but really trying to help them become better.
And you certainly do help a lot of younger people get better. I know you've got that basketball camp, that famous Cieplicki basketball camp that's spanned to across 2 states now. Talk a little bit about your experience with that.
Well, we haven't done the camp in Vermont for a couple of years. We were doing that. My sister and I were doing that, and it was really a blast. I'd have my kids working with me, my children, and it really, what I love about camp is that no one's trying to prove anything, or at least if they are, we can remind them they don't have to. So I have enjoyed. I started doing basketball camps. My gosh, I think in the second year of my coaching high school career, 1986, I want to say, and I never, I never do not look forward to doing a week of basketball camp. This past summer, we did it with Coach Ike, the men's coach, and I did a camp together. And I'll tell you what, he's a close friend. He's a great basketball mind, and we had a blast. I think we had 70 kids. But that camp, that whole camp thing has always just been something that I just so enjoy, and I think it's just so good for the kids.
It really is. And I mean, you keep yourself busy. You still working at James Old DeWitt High School. You work with Coach Ike. He's on the boys team. You're on the girls team for now. But when you look to the future, do you know what your plans are for the rest of your coaching career? Asking the tough questions. Sorry, Coach.
No, I'm laughing because, I think that, the really, I consider myself kind of hardcore. And I think us hardcore people, are just always open to any possibility. And right now, I tell you what's been really extra special for me is having my son Brian as my JV coach and helping me with the varsity, along with a couple good assistants, Carolyn Coddett and Casey Vaughn. But it's kind of a year by year really decision. And I know that we're going to be back with the ladies this year at JD, and we got a great crew of ladies. But as we talked about earlier, the big time stuff and the craziness that goes with it. There's really this much coaching, and what's great about high school is really, you get to coach. And I talked to a buddy of mine who's the women's head coach down at LaSalle, and I told him I was coaching high school, and he coached. I gave him his first job as a grad assistant at Vermont many years ago, and he said, "Coach," he said, "if I could right now, I go back to high school coaching." He goes, I think the relationships that you build with the kids and the families, and just the basketball, it's just fun. So yeah, I'm wide open. And also, one of the things, Tyler, I always said to every person every athletic director I ever worked for, when you don't want me anymore, you just say so. And I really feel that strongly, that there's a shelf life in coaching. Obviously, Jim Boeheim is the exception to that. But, as we know, coaching to me, it's an ever change, there's always movement. And so, I don't know, but I am incredibly content, with where I am right now. And I've got some great young kids. I thought we overachieved this year, which was great. And so we'll hang in there a year at a time. And as long as we're enjoying it and I'm healthy, I'll keep doing it.
You gotta have fun. You gotta adapt. You can't run the flex offense every play forever. There's only so many times you can run that. And before I let you go, I feel like when I think Coach Cieplicki, I think of jokes. You got to leave us with one of the classic Coach Cieplicki jokes. What's your best material, Coach?
Oh boy, I do love humor, and I think there's a lot to be said for. I'll tell you, we laugh more at my practices and even our games, than I ever had, and I think that is just really an important part of being with young people, and it keeps me young. Oh boy, probably the one that I flip out, just kind of rolls off my tongue the easiest, of course. Always love Rodney Dangerfield, and for the most part, he was pretty good. But he always had this joke. I'm sure you remember it, Tyler. Me and my wife go out to dinner twice a week. You finish it?
She goes Tuesdays, I go Thursdays.
There you go, man.
One of the best.
It's a classic. And people tease me about saying the same jokes for the last 40 years, but I kind of consider it, part of my makeup, part of what makes me me. So, I'm glad you remembered that one.
Everyone who's had Coach Cieplicki interact with them will always remember that. We'll always remember your happiness, your silly jokes. It's great, and it was great to have you on today. I really appreciate it.
Tyler, a great privilege, and best of luck to you.
Thank you again to Coach Cieplicki for coming on to the show. It's always great to talk to him. He always has so many great stories. He has so much knowledge stored in that brain of his, and it's just always so fun to talk to him. So if you don't want to miss another great conversation, another great interview like that, well, you got to follow us. So you can subscribe to this YouTube page. Make sure you hit that notification bell, and you're never going to miss an episode. You can also follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and all of those links are down below, or they will be showing on the screen in a few seconds. So please make sure to follow us there so you never miss an episode of the 20 Questions Podcast with Tyler Aiken. Thanks for watching.